you can go back to every ancient scripture, whether it be in the Egyptian pantheon, they talk about Ptah first felt in his heart and then cast a spell of reality through the power of the spoken word. Same thing in the Hebrew Bible. It's the same thing over and over and again. So we are conscious creators with every word we speak, because frequency and vibration holds together this reality. We attract what we're vibrating at.
The Art of Rising, where clarity replaces noise, discipline becomes lifestyle, and growth is intentional. Let's rise together. It's beautiful. Greetings and welcome to the Art of Rising, where we are exploring transformation, leadership, and conscious visionaries changing the planet. I have the proud honor, as always, to sit with an amazing sister here. Her bio is quite diverse and she is creating some amazing things. So this is going to be an exciting one. So stick around. Greetings, sister. Please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're living and what you're doing with yourself these days.
Yes. So happy to be here. I'm honored to be here. My name is Deborah Yager, and I'm living right now currently in Park City, Utah. And my husband and I have a coaching and training company, destination retreat. We do all kinds of things over here. And so we were talking before we jumped on about the hero or heroine journey. And I love that you said, like, you go in the cave and slay the dragon. And fascinatingly enough, I've actually found my internal dragon through this hero journey. Instead of slaying, it's like working with it. And so I started my journey back in 2011. Well, that wasn't the beginning, but that's pretty much when I was in rock bottom. And I'm sure a lot of the people that are listening to this right now has experienced this. Your life is a mess. And there's a lot of chaos right now that's reflecting what is going on inside of us. And so I was in a career that was completely wrong for me. Every single day that I got up, I felt like I had to put on a mask to survive. I felt like my soul was leaving my body. I was trapped. And I'm sure some of you may be feeling this right now, where you signed up for what you thought was going to get you results, but you're on the hamster wheel of hell. That was me. And I also had this identity. And so we have the body of knowledge that I work with right now is called neurolinguistic programming. It's one of the modalities we use. And it's all about conscious language. And I didn't realize it. I was casting spells of everything I didn't want. And so I had an identity. I used to say out loud, I hate my life. I'm a loser magnet. And I didn't understand why I would attract the same guy over and over again. In fact, I would move from state to state, to town, and I didn't even understand why I would attract the same abusive pattern, different face, different name. And I also had this identity that I was an addict. And I played the role of that for many, many years, whether it be food, drugs, sex, attention in all the wrong places. Anything to numb the void that I had inside, because intrinsically I felt broken. I felt not enough. And the career I was telling you about, I was a stripper and I was a sex worker. And I hustled my first guy when I was 16. And I'll tell you the reason why I was in that in the first place is because I believed I was too stupid and broken and unworthy to do anything else. And so I remember finding myself in jail in Las Vegas, Nevada. That was like the depths of the darkness, right? You attract, of course, everything that is going on inside. And this time it was different than the other times I had been, arrested for solicitation or prostitution or whatever. Sometimes they would come in the clubs and they would, pull us out. But anyways, I was sitting there looking at my future. And I had a fork in the road because I was looking at these other women that were just like me. I mean, maybe they got off on the wrong step, right? But they had made a mistake that had put them there, and they were getting placed into sometimes penitentiary for murder or a manslaughter. And I realized if I didn't change something, that would be my fate, or even worse, I wouldn't be on this planet longer. So I remember asking for help. I didn't have any spiritual belief system at the time. I grew up in Missouri where it was very, Christian, Baptist, and I kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. And at the time, I was an atheist. And I remember asking higher divine source, universe, God, whatever you would like to call your connection to spirit. And I asked for help. And shortly after, spirit guided me into a training that radically shifted my life. And I kept going all the way. And within a year, I met my husband.
Mm.
And that's how I got into this work. So a lot of us, I feel like, they're like, oh, was it one moment in time that shifted everything? Yes, there was that moment, but there's so many other rock bottoms. I just kept showing up, and I knew deep down inside that there had to be something more than the life that I was living. And I kept following those breadcrumbs. And over time, it guided me to the right place where now, I mean, I love my life. I used to say I hate my life. I love my life. I'm so grateful. And so I believe everybody can do that as well.
Yeah, that's super powerful and similar too. My old man left when I was 9, and the streets were waiting for me. And if he left at 9, he checked out emotionally years before that. But at the age of like 12 or 13, like the streets were just there, like, we'll be your family and all that. And then all the other things came, the drugs, alcohol, the prison, the arrests, all of those things. And people often ask me, "Oh, when was the day that?" And I'm like, for me, it was just a series of like, yeah, I was like, "Oh, I'm clear." Then I find myself back in it again somehow. But there just comes a point, that enough is enough. If you want it bad enough, that's what I tell
Right.
people. And it seems like that's what happened to you. You came to that point where, like, you know what? I want off of this ride. I don't know who's driving it or when I paid my ticket, but I want off.
Right. And I think that from my perspective, we presuppose when we see success that it's a straight line to the top of the mountain, but it's not. It's a zigzag switchback. Sometimes you take 10 steps backwards, but that's part of the journey and it's part of the learning. And it's not about, we've all heard this, it's not the destination, it's the wisdom that you get along the way. And
Mhm.
so, and I'm super grateful for that. I'm super grateful for myself for continue to show up and be really messy and imperfect. I'm grateful for all the mistakes I made. I'm grateful for all the
Mhm.
teachers in my life, including what you would say is adversaries, right? I mean, they were just reflecting, they were the mentor in the mirror, all the people I attracted in my life that quote unquote, I thought I was an effect of or a victim of. Those were just wisdom teachers. And that's the coolest thing about the heroine or, hero journey is that I believe that this is the way, this is why we're here. Our soul
Mhm.
comes down to experience this hero heroine journey to then, like you said, slay the dragon or, come back to your internal Kundalini dragon that then it
Mhm.
gives you full enlightenment and consciousness that then allows you to serve in a deeper way, right?
Yeah.
Working with the ego.
You're saying a lot of things, and some people listening might say, "Oh, that's all woo woo and stuff like that." But I know that you didn't come from a place like that, right? So I was
Mhm.
looking at your background and some of the things that you've accomplished and things that you're building, and some photographs and also some content that you've made. And I looked at you, and immediately I was saying, "Now here's a woman that is just exuding confidence." But then I started searching a little bit more about your background. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, where did she find that? Like, you were there, like sitting on the lap of the guy who owns the dark, dark and, you were there like, hey, we're buddies, and then now you're this thing.
Yeah,
How?
I mean,
How?
and again, like that's I'm super grateful for it's the spiritual boot camp, right? And by the way, I had a lot of fucking fun. Excuse my
Mm.
language. I had a lot of fun. I had zero responsibility and I had an opportunity to be super super selfish for a very
Mm.
long time. And so that's one of the things I can help women with because I notice there's a pattern with that we give as an archetype. It's not everyone. And so I help people through that learning of it. Now it was truly out of balance for many many years, but now I found balance in that. So helping again, the gift is within the garbage. The gift is
Mm.
within the adversity, and
Mm.
the confidence did not come overnight. So when I met my husband in level 2, and so what we do neurolinguistic programming, we do hypnosis, we have a quantum time modality that is for past life life regression, epigenetics, working with lineage. We do somatic work, breath work. We do all these different modalities. And so we met in the transformational container. And, he told me, he's like, if you really want to change your life, you need to get out of the environment. And so he was sweet enough to, invite this hot mess of a stripper sex worker
Yeah, got the
to come
bonus.
live with
Yeah,
him. Yeah, I mean, the first couple of years, if we didn't have the tools, we wouldn't have
right.
made it, right?
No.
Because I was working through addiction, I was working through victim consciousness. He's working through his Captain Saba, construct, the hero archetype. Like we were working through our stuff together. And, to me, even having a conversation with somebody, I would have a panic attack because in the past, when I would talk to people, I would be on drugs or it'd be the safe environment where I had control of the strip club, right? And I'd be highly medicated. And so for me to look somebody in the eye and communication was one of the biggest challenge. And then I get into communication modalities, right?
Yeah.
And then one of the reasons why I decided to become a trainer is because I knew that speaking was my biggest fear. I'd rather jump off a bridge.
Right.
I could get on stage naked all day
Right.
long, but then
Right.
when it came to using my voice and my mind, because I believed I was stupid, I believed I couldn't communicate, I couldn't read and write. Like these were all the stories that I had adopted, with learning disability as a kid. And so transcending all that, and I'm telling you, I put in the reps. This wasn't something that happened over the first training that we ever did. It was terrible. I mean, terrible. Two people left halfway through. It was my worst case scenario. My small ego was dying, right? My big ego was like, yes, this is what you
Yes,
need to
yeah,
realize
yeah,
that you don't take
exactly.
yourself so freaking seriously.
Right.
So, I mean, it's putting in the reps over time. And like that, I think that our soul comes in with, for me personally, and this is the way that I look at the matrix. We come in with intrinsic gifts that are already there, but we also come in with intrinsic gifts that are here to be formed like the pearl, right? The sand that's like the thing that is the irritation. That is the gift in this lifetime that you're here to transmute and transform to serve at a deeper level. And for me, that was speaking and all the other things that we're doing too. Everything that would freaking scare the shit out of me, then I would
Right.
lean into, right?
Yeah, yeah. It makes me think often of Don Miguel Ruiz, right, the author of
Right.
The Four Agreements, and he says we're domesticated like dogs, right? And that's a hard thing to think about. We think like, oh, I'm human, and listen, we come in here, they tell us this is your music, this is your clothing, this is the temple you go to, this is your God you worship, and all of that, and to get out of that, it can be difficult because the
Right.
first 7 to 8 years are quite crucial. So perhaps, before we move a little bit forward, perhaps you could tell me, how was it growing up in the Jaeger or in your household? I, uh-oh. We got disconnected.
Yes, just for a second.
Okay.
We're
Yeah,
having some
yeah.
opportunity with technology today.
Okay. Okay. That's what it is. Yeah. Shall I continue? Or?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
repeat the
Yes, of
question.
course. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your upbringing, those crucial years in the beginning part. What do you think it was? What was the indoctrination? What was the brainwashing, if you may?
Yeah, so I love my mom and dad, and they are still together. And I was fortunate enough to have amazing humans raise me. I think I came in personally in my soul to F shit up. Like, to be honest with you, like I'm an Aquarius. Not that I identify just with that, but I came in to be a disruptor. And I think that my soul's path, whether they did perfect parenting or not, there is no such thing, anyways. I think I was on the path of self-destruction. And I remember being very much at a very young age, super anxious, super of like I had a lot of stuff underneath the hood. And my parents, my mom, she was working on herself from her own parent stuff, right? She came from a very sterile military type environment. And so she got into therapy because my older brother started exhibiting different types of signs. And so she looked inside and said, I need to change because my child is being affected. And so like I'm so grateful for her. And I was in that environment, and my dad, like his whole sweet identity is around service. And so there was, from my perspective, there was a healthy codependent relationship dynamic
Mm,
that if we had problems, then we got love. So this is how I interpret it, right? That doesn't mean that that's what was going on, but that's how I perceived it. And then I then created that pattern. The more problems and the more chaos you have and more attention you get, then that equals love. And you could see how that pattern at a young age could then create interesting things. And I was always attracted to the dark side. I mean, I remember with my friends, I would always hang out because I get put into the behavioral class, right? Because I was learning disabled and labeled as it. I don't believe in that. I think that's
right.
putting people in boxes.
Yep.
Anyway, and so I made friends with kids that were quote unquote from broken homes. And I really enjoyed hanging out, but I also was witness to a lot of trauma through my friendships. I
Mm.
remember one of my friends that I hung out with, she was a lineage of mothers that had gotten pregnant at 13, and her grandfather killed her. Like, so that's the type of environment I was hanging out in. I was hung out with some people that their parents were smoking crack. I remember being in a, in a closet where the girls were getting beaten up, quite a few different, I just found myself in these situations. And
Mm.
then I started hanging out with the interesting crowd, started doing drugs. First time I ever smoked pot was 13. Very shortly after, got into cocaine, Adderall, all the things. So it just spun out of control. And then I put myself in a situation where I got taken advantage of, right? Under the influence. And then it kind of spun off from there. And again, looking back, it was designed perfectly, right? It
Mm.
was
Yep.
whatever perfection is, to then develop this chip and this trauma response, this part of myself that just wanted to tear things up and destroy, this Kali energy of destroying myself as well as others. And so it created a lot of success and a lot of failure at the same time.
I could see that. I did have a teacher, a yogi, and he had been through it all, man. He was going through jumping from house to house because they gave him up for adoption, and there was abuse along the way. I mean, really hard stuff. And then, he said that he came to this realization where he looked back, he said, it was perfect. It was perfect. He said, this is what made me, and
Mhm.
I could see that's what happened to you. So perhaps
Yeah.
you could tell me, like, what are the biggest misconceptions about the NLP? Because I know a bit about it. It's sort of like you're brainwashing yourself, convincing yourself with the aid of some other things. And it was in 1980. It was put together in Santa Cruz and those type of things. So yeah, give us a little history. Give us what's going on with you with that.
Yeah, so neurolinguistic programming is, from my perspective, the study of the mind body connection. So, like the neurology and how we communicate with our mind and body, and then language, linguistics. You can go back to every ancient scripture, whether it be in the Egyptian pantheon, they talk about Ptah first felt in his heart and then cast a spell of reality through the power of the spoken word. Same thing in the Hebrew Bible. It's the same thing over and over and again. So we are conscious creators with every word we speak, because frequency and vibration holds together this reality. We attract what we're vibrating at. And so we're casting spells with every word. And so first, it's foremost, it's the study of slowing down and realizing how you communicate with yourself.
Mm.
Most people treat their unconscious mind way worse than they would treat their sweet little dog or their child. And their unconscious mind is a representation of their inner child. We look in the
Mm.
mirror and we're like, I got the wrinkles, I got cellulite on my butt, like whatever it is. And we're beating ourselves on all the time. And the unconscious mind's like, okay, serve it. I will do whatever you say. So I'm going to put more bags and more wrinkles, because it does exactly what you tell it to do, except for we haven't been taught. In ancient times, from my perspective, we would be in mystery schools at a very young age, learning about self awareness, knowing thyself, confidence, treating ourselves with reverence, as well as the power of the spoken word. So it's a study of language. And then how do you communicate effectively to somebody else? Because we assume everybody processes information like us. And
Yeah.
we know everybody is a little different. So how do we communicate and change our form of communication to then be able to land with somebody and connect with them in a deeper way to elevate, motivate, and guide them to their success? And the other piece of it is programming. How do we go back? Because the fact of the matter, from my perspective, is that if we have not done belief change work or gone on a journey like with plant medicine or done a deep trauma release or belief change work, we're a product of everybody else's beliefs,
Mm.
passed down through the DNA,
The
passed down
fact.
through cultural programming, brainwashing, our society systems that want us to be worker bees without going down a conspiracy. Anyway, so we are a product of that. And even if you say, I reject all that, you still are an effect of that because you're running away from something you do not want, which then you'll end up creating it again, just like I did. And so that body and knowledge we can use to learn how to communicate more effectively with ourselves and turn the inner critic into our advocate, how to communicate to others to inspire, motivate, and then reprogram our unconscious mind in a very fast way.
Mm.
And we created a course, which is NLP Made Simple, and it's really easy to learn. So, language for me, I was like, I had the learning disability, right? The identity. I'm like, this is so hard. This is language 10.0.
Mhm.
And the fact of the matter is it's really easy to learn. And the guys that created it in California back in the 80s and 90s, they were experimenters,
Mhm.
Richard Bandler and John Grinder.
Right.
John Grinder is a
Software tech.
linguist teacher. And
Mm.
then Richard Bandler, he was an excellent modeler. And so a
Mm.
lot of people think of NLP as being a whole bunch of modalities and language patterns. Some people attach it to brainwashing and mind control. There is hypnosis involved. It's one of the models they modeled. But really, if you want to know, NLP is a process of modeling excellence. And so NLP is not
Mm.
NLP. It's the study of excellence. And so a lot of the stuff people will say, I didn't realize I was doing NLP without doing NLP. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm.
because it was modeling other models that you've probably learned from other models. And now you are also doing NLP. And so I
Mm.
kind of like to differentiate that. And last thing that I'm going to say is that, yes, NLP is being used on people,
Mm.
unfortunately, to motivate them to buy things, to do conditioning to populations and stuff. It's hypnotic language patterns, right?
Right.
And you cannot be brainwashed when you understand NLP and
Mm.
hypnosis.
That's powerful because I noticed that myself too, that after you start waking up a little bit, right? Because we're all still sleeping, we're all conscious in different levels of it. But once you get like a glimmer of light, you start to see like, hey, wait a minute, I have the power.
Mhm.
Like they don't have the power. I have it. I make my choices. I am going to choose this and not that. And then we kind of slip back in and out. But once you get a hold of it, then like, hey, I'm driving the car. The car's not
Right.
driving me, you know. And and
Exactly.
and what about some of those misconceptions, right? Because I'm sure people be like, oh, wait a minute, you're gonna go far inside there, lady. I don't want you to go too far, or you know.
Well, I mean, you want to have a level of trust of the facilitator. Same thing with hypnosis. Um, but you you have the ability. So for an example, have you ever been hypnotized before?
I did one time with a therapist slightly, and wow, the things that came up, I was oh shit, like it was
Yeah.
crazy.
So there has to be a deep amount of trust in order for hypnosis to work. Same thing with NLP, because what happens is we have our conscious mind, we have our unconscious mind, which with hypnosis and NLP, we're working with the 95%, which is the unconscious mind that runs our behaviors, our habits, our emotional reaction. It stores all the memories in this lifetime and past life, as well as genealogical. And so it's the engine, right? But you're the driver as a conscious mind. We also have this amazing thing called the critical faculty or the wedge or the analytical wedge. And so if you are not in trust with your hypnotist, then the wedge is not going to be taken out, right? So you won't
Mm.
be essentially able to be hypnotized, because hypnotize is a do with process, not a
Mm.
do to, right?
Right.
It's just
I
following
see.
instructions. So if I
Mm.
were to say to you, so what's the difference between hypnosis and meditation?
Mm. Yeah. I'm sure there's difference because yeah, meditation is just me. I'm just waiting and breathing and just looking at my thoughts as they go by, and there's a certain downloads. I get them anyway, but
It's the same thing
hypnosis.
though. You
Mm.
are in trance.
Mm.
So we right now are in trance. We're having a conversation, but anytime that I say something that doesn't, go with your belief system, you're going to be like, I don't know if I believe that. That's your
Mm.
critical faculty that's keeping you safe.
Mm.
Same thing with when you're in rapport with somebody, you are in trance together. When you are watching TV, you are in trance. And so
Mm.
so this is where the mind control comes in. It's called programming for a reason, because they know that whenever you watch TV, social media, YouTube, whatever the screen is, your wedge is taken out. This is why there's product placement. So I'm sure you remember iRobot. It's now like a reality. But anyways,
Mhm.
Audi sales back then were tanked. And so they knew that when people suspend belief systems and the wedge is out, they did the product placement of that cool car. And then all of a sudden, Audi was through the roof. Same thing with the Matrix and the glasses. And so people will buy things. Now, it's not going to force them to buy something they wouldn't already buy,
No.
but it
No.
will motivate somebody to buy that specific product if they're already looking for a car. Do you see how that
Mm.
works?
I see. I see. That's
Right.
it goes deep. The rabbit hole is really deep. This I'm aware of a number of things, after you start studying the masters, especially, you start to see what's going on. And there's something definitely going on behind the scenes if you're not paying attention. But you made me think of I forgot his name, the gentleman, the author of Many Masters, Many Lives.
Many masters, many lives.
Yeah, he was a hypnotherapist also, and he started noticing that people were coming out with these incredible past life
Oh, yes.
stories. Yeah, and it's a great book. I've gifted it to many times, but usually when you think of people getting hypnotized and they start speaking about these past lives, they're usually like a king or a pharaoh or some conqueror, but the reality of it is that they could be some guy in the village or a little girl
Oh,
and
yes.
slain. And like, maybe you could tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we do past life regression. One of the modalities that we do is blend it with some Dolores Canyon and different modalities with the timeline. The quantum time technique is one of our modalities that we have coined over time of adapting different timeline work. I mean, timeline is nothing new. It was Aristotle talk about it. It's William James early on in psychology as well. So we all have an intrinsic internal timeline. We can use it to go back on lineage, and it's fascinating what you find with lineage, because we've had clients go and fact check stuff with their great grandmother, and the grandmother's like, "How did you know about that?" It's in our
Great.
DNA, in our cellular memory. So that's transmitted and passed down epigenetically through the DNA and the cells in the body as a memory. And then we have our soul version of that. So you can take people back into a past life. Sometimes they'll have a reverend where they're a king or a queen of control, but most of the time it's a potato digger, like they're
Right.
normal lifetimes that people are experiencing different relationships to then grow their soul. And so how somebody shows up in the now, there can be a soul's contract or an imprint in their soul from that lifetime that then shows up. And so this is where people will say, I've done a lot of work and I keep seeing the same pattern over and over and over again. And from my perspective, there could be something either in the past, in the womb, epigenetically through the DNA lineage, and or the past life, that
Right.
is giving clues, and also how our body shows up. So we've had people that had chronic illness all of a sudden start when they're 30 years old, and all of a sudden they have all these different allergies, one of which could be wheat. And yes, the wheat in our country has lots of toxins, so I'm not talking about that reaction. And then you go back in a past life and that person happened to be killed while they're a farmer in a wheat field. And so
Mm.
that imprint then started, because it's like an a blueprint that's saying,
Right.
hey, there's trauma to
Mhm.
clear. Once you clear the
Mm.
trauma, then the wheat allergy goes away, or
Mm.
whatever symptomology, or their neck hurts at 40 years old. Well, maybe they got their head chopped off in the past life. We
Right.
we regressed somebody one time where they were getting burned at the stake, and this was the most visceral thing that we had ever experienced at the time,
Mm.
because all of a sudden their entire body turned red, and and they started coughing. It took us about 3 to 5 hours to get them grounded back in this reality. It was so real, as if it was happening real time. I mean, we've seen wild stuff like a rope pattern show up on the neck.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
right?
It's there, it's there. It's all there if you're working with these things. Most people don't wanna work with it. So,
Right.
kudos to you and the team. It's the kind of work that nobody wants to deal with. They're like, "No, listen, I'm too busy at Starbucks. Why would I wanna go help some guy?" You know? So, and the gentleman's name is Brian Weiss. He's the author
Brian
of
Weiss.
many, many, many masters, many lives, and got to see him here at the Jacob Javits Center,
Oh,
and
how cool.
he's yeah, it was cool because he said, "Okay, I'm gonna put the whole room, in hypnosis." I was like, "Yeah, right, whatever, man." So we sat back and he talked a while, and then I just dozed off, like I fell asleep. But then all of a sudden, he was going through timelines. He was mentioning, BC, this, going back, and like I dozed off, and all of a sudden, I heard this big crash, like a truck, just like bam, and then I woke up, and then I heard him. He said 500 BC, right? And then I
Mm.
told my wife, I said, "Honey, did you hear that smash?" She was like, "I didn't hear nothing. What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Yeah, like it was a big truck, like hit the side of the building." She was like, "No, I didn't hear anything." I was like, "Wow, this is deep."
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible what people come back with and how much transformation. What was do you know what it was? There was a lot going on in 500 BC, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think I looked at it briefly, but it was so, you know, uh,
Real.
broad and wide. Like if you would have said a name or a town or a village or something like that. But I'm sure he would have saw me one on one if I was, open to that. But I bought his books and all that. He's great, great, and I love all that work. It's deep work that's going on like on a DNA level, and
Mhm.
I can see that that's what you're helping people with this real transformation. Perhaps you could tell me some of the success stories that, without mentioning too many details, about people that suffered or were going through this and how you helped them.
Yeah, so I mean, so we had a beautiful woman, health practitioner, and she shares the story publicly. This actually happened in this lifetime. It didn't show she would eat everything correct, and I would see her at our retreats, like very conscious about her food, and she had this level of inflammation. She was holding on to 40 pounds, and Brandon and I were like, "There's something there, whether it be in this lifetime or before," and we were one of her partners. So we get people together and they work with each other. So we're teaching how to do it with each other. So everybody gets an individual breakthrough in this specific retreat. And some people are actually learning how to facilitate it. For an example, if they're a plant medicine facilitator, a coach, or a health practitioner that want to help their people with trauma, because trauma also creates disease of the body out of ease. And so she had this massive breakthrough, and it had to do with her when she was a little girl of 5, being molested by her grandfather. And so after that released, this she's lost 40 pounds, and it was within the first 3 months. And she didn't change anything with her diet because she was already eating healthy. It was that, think about it, the body's inflamed because it's protecting itself, right? It's holding on. We also had a woman that her ancestry had experienced the Armenian genocide. She had 30 pounds on her as well. That she would do the yo-yo. She would lose it, gain it, lose it, gain it. And when she let go of that ancestral rage, she that it just nothing, she didn't change anything. And then poof, that the
Mm.
transformation there. We also had a woman that had 50 years of back pain, chronic pain. So chronic pain, from our perspective, is trapped negative emotions of which the client is not aware of. And so she was diagnosed at 5 years old with scoliosis. There was all this stuff around it. There was a lot of trauma around that diagnosis. And, even to breathe, it looked painful. I mean, she said it was a screaming 13 at a scale of 1 to 10 at all times. And she was hunched over. She also shares this story too publicly, and now she can walk. She jumped off a 20-foot cliff into the water here in Utah in the summertime afterwards. I'm like, would you have done that if you had the
It's
chronic
like,
pain? She's like, no. I mean, it's amazing what
wow,
our
it's
unconscious
amazing.
mind.
It's
Yeah. And we've
just
seen, the mom or the father release something ancestrally or past life, and then all of a sudden their child changes, and that's the
mm,
magic, right? You're not only, and we hear this in the ancient teachings, wherever you go in the world, you're not only doing the work 8 generations into the past for your ancestors, but you're also doing it 8 generations in the future. And I get
right.
chills all over my body because we have a
Yeah.
choice,
Mm.
and we just don't realize it.
Yeah, that's wow. I don't know what to say about that. It's just it's a lot of the things that I've come to some realizations about, and many things that you're speaking about. I'm aware of them. No expert by any means, which I don't know what even that means. Who's an expert, right? Because we're all still learning, right?
Of course.
But for me, Deborah, it was the ayahuasca, right? The plant
Mhm.
medicine. I was trying many things. I tried silent retreats, I tried belief systems, meetings, religions, I tried many things, but I always found myself back in it again. So I
Mhm.
found this thing on the internet called ayahuasca. I couldn't even pronounce it at the time. I studied it because I got this funny name, right? I studied it for about a year and a half and finally met someone because I didn't know anyone who had did it, even people who I thought was spiritual. But I happened to be on vacation or on holiday, like they say in England. I was on vacation in Egypt, of all places,
Really?
and during the 30 days, I was 15 people. 15 days within the month, we stood with about 15 or 17 people touring all the temples and stuff. And one person there, he did ayahuasca and it was like, wow. And then he
In
told me, oh, I did it
Egypt?
like 70 in Egypt. He was part of the group and he was saying, I've done it 17 times. And then that confused me more. I was like, why would you even do it so many times? So I didn't know. But let me tell you this little story right here. One night we were talking by the Great Pyramids in the hotel at night and sharing different beliefs, crystal skulls, all kind of, people come with all these things. And I'm listening and they started talking about many of the things that you were talking about. And I was saying, that sounds like woo woo. I don't know about that. And she went, yeah, maybe you should, look into that, brother. I was like, yeah, maybe I will. That night, I had a dream that from my ear on the right side, wax started falling out and then rocks started coming out.
Wow.
Yeah, right by the pyramids. We were sleeping in a hotel right in the shadows of the Great
At the
Pyramids.
Mina
And
House?
I'm sorry? No,
At
it
the
was
Mina
not.
House?
No, it was not that wasn't the name of it. It was a hotel that was there. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
remember the name of it. It may have been, but
We take tours to Egypt. Yeah,
wow.
I was that's so cool that you did ayahuasca in Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I met the person there
Uh-huh.
In Egypt, but he told us
Oh, okay.
that in Peru, that's
Okay.
the places he went to. So he named like about 7 of them, and then we picked
What tribe
one.
did you go with? We've done the Huni Kun there, in
We
Peru.
did the Shipibo people
Shipibo, yeah.
there. That's in Pucallpa. Last
Mhm.
I learned, no roads really go to Pucallpa. You have to fly in, and then you
Right.
go through the town, and then we go deep into the, you know,
Jungle?
jungle, and roads of dirt, and then we stood at a healing center there.
Mm,
And for 7 days, we drank the medicine 3 times. And
that's
the
awesome.
first time, I didn't like it at all. Like, I was like, "What is this?" Because when I was doing heavy drugs, it wasn't psychedelic. My thing was like, cocaine and,
Mhm.
anything else but that. Those were for other guys. They were weird. But this thing was medicine, man, and it was
Right.
hard. The first one it had to do
Really
with
hard.
control and all of that. I learned later. But then the second and the third one, Deborah, was so beautiful. It's beyond words. I can't even, it's ineffable. Humans don't have words to explain that thing, whatever that is, like portal, I don't know. But ever since then, like I've been on this thing, and yeah, I
When
eat
was
different.
that? When was that?
That was about 11 years ago,
Oh, that's
and then
wonderful.
we got a bonus out of it too because we couldn't get pregnant. So we
Mm,
ended up in the fertility clinic. But
yes.
the healing center said, look, we're not promising nothing, but stop taking those things and just come over here. And we
Mhm.
did. We stopped. And then when she came back, she spotted lightly the first time. And the second
Mm,
time, that was it. The
that's
EPT
inc
said, look, I'm pregnant. It's like wishing for a Ferrari to show up in your garage. And one day you open the garage door and the car is there, like
yes,
leather smell and everything.
that's incredible. Congratulations. So how is it boy or girl?
A girl. And we named
Girl.
her Aya in honor of the
I,
medicine of ayahuasca.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I get
It's
chills
not a
all over my body.
religion. Yeah. It's not a
Yeah.
religion. They never told us this is the God you got to worship. And no,
Oh, no, no, no.
it's about
Yeah.
you. You.
I the first time I did Aya, it's probably the same time that you did it. So
Mm,
after I found this work in 2000, like 2011, 2012 is when I did Aya, and I did it
mm,
with a
mm,
shaman that had gone down to the jungle to heal his heroin addiction with the Shipipo, and he was also Lakota. So he had a mixture of everything. I did in Las Vegas, Nevada, in some
mm,
rando house, and it
mm,
was a galactic experience. My first experience was really interesting, challenging, again, the control and then letting go. And then the second time was, it was her telling me, the grandmother telling me, because I was beating myself up for all the drugs I put in my body for so long. She's like, you're already healed, you're already healed. I get like the goosebumps all over my body. She's like,
mm,
you're done, you're healed, you're fine, stay on the path and stuff. And we've done it. I then introduced it to my now husband. We went down to Peru and did it with the Hunikun tribe, or the
mm,
Hunikuni tribe.
mm,
And I like her. So that was the first time I ever did it from a leader of her name is Mama, or Meridi, or Meri. And she leads like 3,000 women within her tribe. And it was
mm,
her son and her two sons and her daughter. And the son was learning how to serve. And so I'd never seen like a family do it before. And
mm,
so it worked
mm,
on all kinds of stuff, of my own family dynamic, and watching this young girl sing at like 15 years old and really owning her voice, healing my
mm,
voice.
mm,
And during that journey, Spirit told me that, you need to connect with your brother. My brother was suffering. So he had been suffering for about 10 years. So when I got clean, I used to supply him with pharmaceuticals, Oxycontin, stuff like that. And I had seen him go downhill, and Spirit was like, you need to have a conversation with him again. You need to try to connect with him because you can help him. And I waited, and he passed away from fentanyl. So that was like, that's the last time I've done ayahuasca, and I feel the call again. So that was in 2021, during
mm,
COVID, and
mm,
I'm
mm,
really feeling the call to go back and
mm.
just when I don't do it unless I have the call. It's that thing. It's like you got to
Right.
feel 100% whole body. Hell yes. So,
Right.
but that was the
Right.
beginning of initiation that then, of
Mm,
course,
mm,
transmuted us and alchemized my husband and I for a good part of 3 years since that.
mm,
And so it's been
mm,
such a
mm.
beautiful journey. I'm super grateful for that medicine. It's so
Yeah,
powerful.
it's so powerful. It is so. I recommend it to everybody. People are like, what if I go crazy? I'm like, as if you're not crazy already.
Right.
You work at a job for 15 hours a day to get money to give it to somebody else. Like,
Insanity.
it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but funny enough, Deborah, or not funny, it was in 2012 when we were in Egypt, and that's
Oh,
when I
wow.
learned when I learned about that good brother. Yeah, because we figure like if the world blows up, we'll be in a good spot right there, right?
The Mayan calendar.
Exactly right. So
But
this
that
is
was
what
the
we found.
awakening. You know the story
Mhm.
behind that. It's just a new age. Like we're moving.
Right.
It was marking point of the age of
Yeah, it's
Aquarius.
ending. Right,
Right.
it's ending.
The
The world ended. Yeah,
beginning of the new.
that one over there. Yeah.
Thank goodness, because the old world, there's a lot to work on, and a lot of integration of the condor and the eagle to fly together, and divine masculine and feminine.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of people doing great work, and um, you know, the same thing that people say about Jesus, what Jesus did for them. There's people that say the same thing about Krishna, and they
Hmm.
say the same thing about
Osiris.
Zoroastrian or Osiris. They say it's the same. It's all the same.
Right.
That's why I say it's all the same. And then when you start reaching back further, like you had alluded to earlier, it's coming off from there.
Mhm.
It's just keep going back. You'll see that they're taking it from there and they refashion it and go, oh, this is it, you know.
Yeah. This is going full circle about the dragon. Um, so
Mm.
I've been chasing the dragon, but not from a heroin perspective for a long
Okay,
time.
I know that term. Yeah.
Not that anymore, at least. But anyway, so the lineage of the dragon, the pin dragon, or the dragon priestesses. I mean, it's Veracocha, it's Quetzalcoatl, it's also the snake that in the Isis lineage that's connected to Mary Magdalene and Jesus. And I've
Mm.
been on this pilgrimage seeking out that left-handed path of the dragon feminine lineage of Pythia, right? So Pythia, or the priestess of Delphi. And so that has been the work that has been coming back to home. And I would say, like, in a nutshell, this is what we're doing with people, is that we're creating the container and the environment and helping them with tools that they already know. It's the divine remembrance that we are already perfect, that we are divine beings having a multidimensional experience in this physical avatar body. And that, I in order for us to co-create this new reality, that we need to remember, our divinity, we need to remember our power and our
Mm.
truth and
Mm.
why we're here. And so that's how I came back full circle to the dragon, because the
Mm. Mm.
primordial dragon is that goddess energy that, not from, like, the patriarchy did this to us. No, divine feminine did it to us as well. And it's not to us, it did it for us. We went through
Mm.
a phase where there was divine masculine that had to go out of balance to then bring in balance the divine feminine. But divine feminine was also out of balance. Otherwise, the divine masculine would have not gone out of balance. So
Mm.
it's a two thing. We have all been a co-creator of this reality to teach us something, to then get in right relationship with ourselves, our internal masculine and feminine, and our counterpart in this journey together.
Right. I know that we live in a world of symbols. So the
Yeah.
symbols all over, even the letters that we see on pieces, they're just symbols. That's what they are. So yeah, were there gods here at this time? And yeah, that's possible, but a lot of it has to do with symbolism too. So we have
Hmm.
to see them like that, the masculine and the feminine, the dark, the light, like all of these things come together just to help us so we could remember that
Yeah.
we've been there, the snake. Right now, we're coming out of the snake and moving into the horse, the fire horse. But the snake, the shedding of the skin, and like just right around that time, just recently too, man, I had a breakdown and I started getting all of these thoughts. I actually had some information about my old man that passed on about close to 2 years now, and this information was about some nefarious activity that he allegedly did, and like I took that upon myself, Deborah, and
Mm.
like at that time, like I was just crying, but then I started getting these downloads, because this is another new buzzword, but just whatever you want to call it. Like I was just getting some information coming in and telling me, like, that's not yours, it's not yours, yes, let it go, it's here, but just put it down, it has nothing to do with you, this has to do with past lives, so it was super
Right.
powerful.
And may I share my perspective on anything,
Please do.
what we
I'm
quote
open.
unquote, yeah, what we quote unquote think is wrong, bad, or evil, or doing things like out of integrity, whatever. Those are lessons too, right? There's so much gifts in that. How many of us have done bad things? All of us, right? We all, and this goes back to Carl Jung. We all have the devouring mother. We all have the person that victimizes somebody. We all have that dark side of us, and that's part of being a human in this human experience. And so there's lessons in that within the contrast. And so, having a father that quote unquote got off path, what a really interesting way to look at a different representation of the fractal pattern of source consciousness.
Mhm. For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And, my old man, he taught me a lot of bad things when I was young, alcohol, drug, all kinds of things. There was abuse and all sorts of stuff. But later on, he became a Buddhist, a practicing Buddhist.
Wow.
I love the way they say that, how's your practice going, right? Because it's just practice. That's all we're doing here, right?
Hmm.
But he was a practicing Buddhist, and he would go to the temple and all that. And I learned so many things from that too,
Hmm.
that I can sit and be still and listen to, right? Praying is talking to God, and you want God to talk to you. Shh, stay quiet, stay
Hmm.
still, just sit, breathe, and pay attention to that frequency that you speak of, and hypnotize yourself, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
And whatever works for everybody. And the thing is that this is everything I've been sharing from my perspective is my perspective, and I also am fully aware that it's limited because I don't know what I don't know. And the more that we all go down this rabbit hole, that realize we know nothing and we
Mm.
know everything at the same time. It's such a freaking paradox.
I know, I do. I get these deeper thoughts too that tell me, man, you ain't nothing. You're shit. You're not. But then at the same time, it's saying you're everything. You're complete. You're perfect. I'm like, well, wait a minute.
It's both at the same time. We
It's
live
at
in
the
a
same time.
paradoxical universe. That's from
Yeah.
my humble
Yeah.
perspective.
Yes. Thank you.
Everything is a paradox.
We're coming up on the hour. Thank you for your time and all that. Perhaps you can share where people can find you. Maybe a bit about this program that you've put together, so powerful.
Yeah. So one way to start with us is nlpmadesimple.com. It's a really incredible starter course to learn about NLP, learn how to repattern your unconscious mind, learn how to effectively communicate, and then also keep yourself uh, safe from any external programming. And I will say one little hack as we're finishing this up. So remember how we talked about the critical wedge? You can use that for your good. So, meaning that if you have somebody that, or if there's a program that's going on, or somebody's telling you something negative, you can inside your mind say cancel, clear, delete. You
Mm,
love that person and respect their model of the world, and you have a choice to accept that into your life. And so I do that on a daily basis. Is that if there's something that, for an example, you're in the airport and you can hear all the fear porn that's going on news, right? So you cancel, clear, delete. I don't want
right.
that's I reject that. That's not my reality, right? And so NLP is going to allow you to really understand that and effectively communicate with yourself and create success very quickly. And then we also have Yager Train, or excuse me, yourtruealchemy.com. And that's our destination retreats. We do global retreats to Guatemala, as well as Tulum. We have a Mayan elder that we work with that has been passed down the lineage of the story of. He believes in the lineage of the Mayans that he's learned under is that they are the remnants of Atlantis and Lemuria. And so
Mhm.
there's a whole connection with Egypt. And so we do the dragon lineage through the Mayan. And then we also do destination retreats in Egypt as well. And then we have in-person retreats here in Utah. It's just choose your own adventure. So, figuring
Mm.
out what works for you. And then we also do certifications too. So, like I said, it's designing your own path if you resonate with anything. And, we would love to serve you in a deeper level. And that's yourtruealchemy.com. And then we also have a podcast, which I would love to have you on too. My husband and I would love to interview you, hear your deep story of the
Mm.
transformation with ayahuasca and your beautiful daughter that you co-created with.
Yes.
Sounds like your divine queen that's on
Yes.
the
Yeah,
path with
for
you.
sure.
So
For
we would love
sure.
to. Or if we could interview both of you too, that would be awesome if she's open to it.
Thank you so much. That would be our honor to do that. And I love those things that you speak about because it's not like a used car salesman. You're like, hey, this is what we're offering. If it resonates with you, come on through. If not,
Yes.
we'll be right here. That's fine. I love that. I love it because there's so much junk out there. And I was recently learning about the Atlantis, right, where they had learned from the Greeks, about this place that was high technology and it went under and all of that. But the word Atlantis, they don't really know the origins of where it came from. But if you break it down, it's Atlant, and
Uh-huh.
that was from the Mayans.
Hmm.
That was from there. Yeah.
And that's why they have Lake Atlan,
Right.
and that's where the Popol Vuh is from. And then,
Mhm.
so in Egypt, Kem. alchemy. That's where
Okay.
the remnants of Atlantis, from my perspective, and the biblical flood, no matter what tradition around the world, they all talk about a time of catastrophe, and they have science to back this up. During the
Mhm.
Younger Dryas, which was around 12,000 years ago, right when Göbekli Tepe in Turkey was buried. And so in the Sumerian text, as well as the Egyptian text and the Mayan text, it talks about a time. This is about the divine remembrance, where we were high technology. We fully knew our divinity. We could move things like blocks, like those Egyptian blocks, with our
Mhm.
minds. So anyway, this is, I like going down this rabbit hole. We can have
I
another
love it.
conversation on another podcast about that, but I just love that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. I could go on with that also. It's
Yes.
just once you start learning, it's the things that they've taught us, it's not like that. It's sort of like that. That's
Yeah.
why we believe it.
Yeah.
Because they put a little bit of truth
Well,
in there,
true.
separate, and then they put all the other stuff to control you.
Right.
You see? But yeah, yeah. But this that's why, you made that analogy about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't throw the baby out.
No, there's
No.
good in all.
Yeah, the scriptures are they're powerful. Come on now, you're not paying attention. Some of them you might want to question, and some we might want to talk about, like giants and come
The
on, and
Nephilim
nobody's talking about that. Yeah, exactly. Why can't we talk about that? We're talking about this other, yeah.
is in the book of Enoch.
It's in the book of Enoch. That's why they took it out, right? Yeah, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And then when you see like the diamond cutting technology, like I tell
Uh-huh.
people, look, if you want to look to India. Look to
Right.
India. Look there. See, you could see a little bit about there's been things going on here on this realm of man for eons, eons.
Yes.
Humans we're just the new guys on the block.
Yeah, we're the new genetic experiment.
Exactly, exactly. We
That's
resonate so
why I called.
beautiful. Mhm. I ay, ay, ay. Hold on, hold on. Okay,
There we go.
we're back. Go ahead. You were saying why it's called? Go.
From my perspective, it's why it's called Genesis. Hello, genes. I mean, it's right
You could
there,
go
plain
yeah.
sight.
I know. Zachariah Sitchin,
Uh-huh.
make them in our image. Who you talking about? I thought it was just you in the room. Like, yes, because there was
And
something
all
else going on. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's something else going on. But thank you so much. Let's do it again. I'll check back with you
please.
perhaps, I don't know, a couple of weeks, months or so, see where you're at again and do our best to get your good news out there to the tribe.
Thank you so much. So honored to be
Okay.
here with you, and I can't wait to jam out on a podcast again.
That's what's up. Let's do it. Stay right there, Deborah. Thank you, family, for tapping